Everybody. I welcome you to the permeability series. Like always, we will wait 5 more minutes so everyone have a chance to join the webinar room. Already a few people are logged in, and let's start in 5 minutes. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to this exciting webinar with Jonas. So I think nearly everyone has joined already, and I think we can start. And first of all, hello and welcome everybody to our 5th webinar of the permeability series in 2022 with the topic modulation of paracellular-like drug transport across an artificial biomimetic barrier by osmotic stress-induced liposome shrinking. My name is Yannick, and I will be your host for this webinar. On today's agenda, we will take a closer look on the publication from Eriksen et al. We are happy to have our second external speaker with Jonas Eriksson here at the Permeability series. He is currently a PhD student doing his thesis in vitro tools for biopharmaceutical studies of drug formulations. He's been doing the first half of his PhD at University of Southern Denmark under the supervision of Professor Brandl. In the second half of his PhD, he is working at Boehringer Ingelheim's Analytical Development Department in the group of Dr. Milsmann. Jonas has published several studies in the scientific journals about permeation and combined dissolution permeation, and we are very happy to have him here for this webinar. In the presentation, he will focus on the experimental setup with the preparation of the PermaPAT barrier and how you can use it for paracellular-like drug transport. If you have detailed questions regarding the analysis, Jonas is happy to answer it in the Q&A session. And before we start with the webinar, a few things regarding the organization. We have opened a Q&A window on the right side where you can type in your questions, and we will answer them at the end of the presentation, and we'll also provide the slides and the link to the recorded webinar afterwards. Without further ado, I give the word to Jonas. Enjoy the presentation and see you at the Q&A again. Thank you very much. Jonas, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Yannick. Yes, I have my sound on. I'll just find the slides. Yes. So, can you see the slides, Yannick?
Yes.
Great. Yes. So, thank you for introducing me. Yes, I will have this talk today about modulation of paracellular transport across PermaPAT. And now Yannick was kind to introduce me. I've also put a short introduction here. But I'm a pharmacist coming from Denmark, and I have been studying at the University of Southern Denmark, where I also have been doing the first part of my PhD. Now I am settled in southern Germany, and I'm doing the second part of my PhD at Boehringer Ingelheim. The talk today will focus a lot on permeability studies with the PermaPAT barrier, and in this settle I have some experience, as I have been working in the research group of Annette Bauer Brandl, who is one of the co-inventors of the barrier, and I have supervised several master projects using this barrier and also a handful of publications. Yes. So the reason I have been invited to do this talk today is because we published this paper this year in Pharmaceutics, modulation of paracellular-like drug transport across an artificial biomimetic barrier by osmotic stress-induced liposome shrinking. So before we go into the details, I would like just to introduce some basics about the subject and permeability testing. So when a patient is ingesting a tablet or capsule or another oral product, the product has first to disintegrate, and then it has to dissolve and permeate to be absorbed into the blood circulation. The absorption is mainly occurring in the small intestine for most small molecules, and the reason that it's mainly occurring here is that the small intestine have a very high surface area, so there is a lot of space for permeation of the drug compound. When drug compounds permeate, they can permeate via different routes. So they can permeate via passive transport, which are driven by a gradient. This gradient could be a concentration gradient, where it can either go in between the cells in paracellular transport, or it can go through the cells in transcellular transport. Through the cells in transcellular transport is probably the most common transport, but for its favor lipophilic compounds more than hydrophilic compounds. So some small hydrophilic compounds will maybe go in between the cells in the paracellular transport. Then there is also active transport. This requires energy, and it requires that a specific compound can be bound to a transporter. And then there is also some exocytosis and exocytosis. Yes. So just short introduction to when we are permeability testing, and this is for all permeability tools, that you will usually have 2 compartments, and you will have your drug traveling from one compartment to the other compartment, and then you will measure the concentration in the receiver compartment over time, and from this you can calculate how much drug have permeated at each time point, and then if it have a linear correlation, you will say this is steady state flux. This requires usually that the donor concentration is more or less constant and the area is constant, and then you can use the steady state flux, which is the slope, to calculate the apparent permeability, which are a constant for a drug compound's ability to pass a certain barrier. Yes. So the permeability can be tested with different tools, which are have a different biorelevance, but also different cost and throughput. So the most biorelevant, but also the most expensive one, is the in situ testing. In situ testing, it can be done in animals where you take out a part of the intestine and close it with some balloons, and then you can have a drug compound inside, and you can measure how much is permeating into the blood. In this setup, it's very complex, but you also have all the in vivo conditions from the living animal. Then you can have ex vivo. Ex vivo is where you take out a piece of tissue, and when you put it into, use it with a what is called a mechanical setup, like these Using chambers are probably the most known setup, which have 2 compartments and also an electrical current to measure the transport of drug compound and ions. Then there is the in vitro tools, the cell-based and the artificial in vitro barriers. The cell-based usually intestinal cells. The CAGO2 cells is the most common used cell-based barrier, and this is colon cells which are grown on a filter, and then the permeation can be measured across it. Both the cell-based and the artificial barriers can be measured in different setups. It's both plate setups where you have a plate with a top and bottom compartment separated by the barrier, but it can also be side-by-side cells or file cells, and there also exist several other setups where we have 2 compartments separated by this barrier, and then we can measure the transport of drug across the barrier. What I will focus on this this presentation is especially the artificial in vitro barriers and also especially PermaPAT. Other artificial in vitro barriers which exist are PAMPA, which are some organic solvent with some lipids dissolved, and PVPA is some filters which have liposomes inside the filters. And then there also exist several barriers which are more or less like a dialysis membrane, which have a molecular cutoff. In general, these artificial barriers are only considered to reflect the passive transcellular transport, while the 3 other levels also measures the active transport and the passive paracellular transport. So the barrier I will focus on today is the PermaPAT barrier, and the PermaPAT barrier is a biomimetic barrier which are able to discriminate the permeability of drug compound in a similar way as they are discriminated when they permeate across the intestine. I have here on the right, I have taken a graph from one of my colleagues who did a study where she saw that the discrimination compared to human absorption is the same as in the CAGO2 cells. Yes. So now I want to talk about how the barrier is designed. So the PermaPAT barrier consists of 2 cellulose layers, which are some cellulose-based membranes, and then in between we have some dry lipids. These dry lipids, they will, upon contact with the water or an aqueous buffer, they will form lipid vesicles. So in the picture below here, we can see the lipid vesicles. And these lipid vesicles, as we see, they also have some space in between. And that's what have initiated this study. But in else case, they are tightly packed in a stacked layer inside the membrane. So we thought that what happens if these lipid vesicles are not tightly packed? What can then happen? And we wanted to investigate if this maybe could allow some drug compounds to travel through this space in between the lipid vesicles. And this is what we would consider paracellular-like transport. This is not in between cells, and it's maybe do not have all the same factors as paracellular transport have in vivo. But if we can travel in this water layer, at least we would consider it paracellular transport because it would allow some hydrophilic molecules to pass the barrier in another way. And when we wanted to investigate possibilities to modulate the barrier, this can both be an advantage by modulating the barrier, because of then we can get it to have some desired probabilities, but it can also be a disadvantage because of it. It can also mean that if people are not aware that they change the morphology of this barrier, they can get some artifact in their permeability studies. So the way we wanted to change the lipid vesicles inside the barrier was by osmotic shrinking and swelling. I have taken this picture. It's probably a picture many of you have seen in your high school textbook. It's the blood cells, and if they are in a isoosmotic solution, they will stay in a normal shape. But if they get into a hyperosmotic solution, they will shrink. All the water will go out to eliminate the osmotic gradient between the internal and external solution. And if in the opposite, if they are in a hyperosmotic solution, they will swell because of all the water will go in to eliminate this osmotic gradient between internal and external. The same is the case for lipid vesicles. They do also, when they form, they also get some internal liquid, and if they go to hypotonic medium, they will swell, while if they go to hypertonic medium, they will shrink in size, and the water will travel by the water travel. Yes. So our thought about the PermeaPAD membrane is that just take some water. If we let the lipid vesicles form in one media, and then replace this media by another media which have a higher osmolality, then we think that the lipid vesicles, they will shrink because of the osmotic travel, because the water inside will try to eliminate the osmotic gradient. If the lipid vesicles are formed in one media and we replace it with a media of the same osmolality, then we just think that the lipid vesicles will stay the same. And in the third case, if the lipid vesicles are formed in one media and the media is replaced by a media of a lower osmolality, then we hypothesize that the lipid vesicles will swell. In this case, we would expect that the permeability of lipophilic compound, it would probably be the same in all three cases. However, we would guess that the permeability of hydrophilic molecules should change in this environment if they are able to travel in the area in between the lipid vesicles. So for these studies, we used the reversed Franz-cell setup. Some of you maybe know the Franz-cell from permeability experiments. It's often used with the Queen's or creams or such product where we have the cream in the top and then we have the permeation down to the bottom chamber. We used the reverse setup, so we had our donor solution in the bottom chamber, and then we had the permapad membrane, and then we in the top chamber had our acceptor solution. So how we did our study. Before doing our study, we did a pre-treatment of our membrane, and we did this pre-treatment with sodium chloride solutions of 50 to 900 milliosmolar. This we put into the top compartment and let it stay in the top compartment for 30 minutes. After the 30 minutes, we removed the solution in the top compartment, and then we replaced the solution in the top compartment with just buffer at 300 milliosmolar, and in the bottom compartment we put a drug solution at 300, which was in the same 300 milliosmolar buffer. In these cases, we expect that the lipid vesicles inside the membrane, they will form at least 50 to 900 milliosmolar during the pre-treatment. And then once we replace it with the 300 milliosmolar cases, 300 milliosmolar solution, then in the cases where we had 50 for pre-treatment, the lipid vesicles will shrink. And in the cases where we had 900 milliosmolar for pre-treatment, the lipid vesicles will swell. And then we will do some permeation experiment with this. Yes. So for this study, we chose 4 compounds. We chose calcein. It's not really a drug compound, but it's a small molecule which are really hydrophilic and it's easy to quantify with fluorescence. And we have used it often in our lab to determine if there is happening any modulations of our barrier because of it tends to be really sensitive to changes in the barriers morphology. Then we used acyclovir as another hydrophilic molecule which also expresses paracellular transport. And then we had 2 hydrophobic molecules, hydrocortisone and celecoxib. Celecoxib was used as a saturated suspension rather than a solution because of the low solubility of celecoxib. Yes, so the first results I would show is the calcein results. So in the case of calcein, we have here in the middle, we have the 300 milliosmolar case where we have pre-treatment with the same solution of the same osmolality as we did our experiment. In these cases, we see when we go down in osmolality in the pre-treatment step and expect the lipid vesicles to shrink, we also observe a significant higher permeation of calcein. However, in the cases where we expected to swell the lipid vesicles, we also see a significant higher increase in the permeation of calcein. We did not for sure know why this increase is also happening in the case where we use the higher osmolality. Our hypothesis is that maybe the lipid vesicles are not able to swell to this extent and they simply burst, and this causes the higher permeation through the barrier. But if any of you have any suggestion to what can happen in this case, I'm also very happy to hear it. The same is the trend with acyclovir, the other hydrophilic molecule. We also see when we shrink the lipid vesicles inside, we observe a higher permeation. But again, also when we swell the lipid vesicles, we also see a higher permeation of acyclovir. On the other hand, when we used hydrocortisone and celecoxib, our lipophilic molecules, we did not see any changes in the permeation in any of the cases with pre-treatment, which this to us at least indicates that it could be that we change the space in between the lipid vesicles by using this osmotic shrinking and swelling, and this could allow for some transport of molecules in between the lipid vesicles across the barrier. To do a mechanistic proof of this concept, we also tried to do permeation experiment where we removed the lipid layer. So of PermaPad, it has these two support sheets, and then it had the dry lipids in the middle, but we simply only used two pieces of support sheet as the membrane for permeation experiments with 50 and 300, where we have 50 and 300 milliosmolar sodium chloride solutions for the pre-treatment step of the barrier. And then from this, when we have the permeability across PermaPad and the support layer, we can, from this equation, we can calculate also the permeability of the drug compounds across the lipid layers in the different circumstances, as the PermaPad resistance is equal to the resistance of the support layer plus the resistance of the lipid layer. So if we first look at the hydrophilic molecules again, we can see that the permeability across the support layer is not significant different for either calcine or acyclovir, while it's calculated to be different from the lipid layer, which really shows that with lipid layer is where the change is happening. For the lipophilic molecules, for hydrocortisone, first of all, we saw that the permeability was not really faster through just the support layer than it was through PermaPad, and this made the permeability across the lipid layer such fast that we was not able to calculate across the lipid layer with reliable results, because it just become high, and in some cases it become negative and so on. But at least it shows still that there is no significant changes in any of the layers, between any of the layers here. For celecoxib, we see kind of same trend also. There is no significant difference of the permeability across the support layer of PermaPad, and neither across the lipid layer of the membrane. Yes. In the end, we did one additional experiment. In this experiment, we tested this pre-treatment step. So in all the previous study I've showed, we have done 30 minutes pre-treatment. We had no argument to do this. We just needed to try something, and it worked out. So we kept with 30 minutes pre-treatment of the membrane, but we wanted to test if 2 minutes was enough. First of all, just to save time if people want to modulate the PermaPad barrier. But another thing which also give good knowledge is that this study really have shown something about how the lipid vesicles form within the PermaPad barrier, and as there was the same trend was observed with 2-minute pre-treatment as with 30-minute pre-treatment, we can say that the lipid vesicles inside PermaPad, they are forming within 2 minutes. So it does not take a long time from this membrane is coming in contact with an aqueous solution until the lipid vesicles has formed. So in conclusion, first of all, we have been, we conclude that we have been able to change the morphology of the barrier, and it can be changed by using media of different osmolality. The lipid vesicles will shrink inside the membrane if media of a lower osmolality is used to form the lipid vesicles when they are used to study on, while we could not see the opposite, that they swell when we pre-treated the barrier with a media of a higher osmolality when we did our experiment in. This shrinking of the lipid vesicles inside the membrane, it was able to increase the permeability of the hydrophilic molecules, but not the lipophilic molecules. And for us, it indicates both that the PermaPad membrane probably is expressing some kind of paracellular-like transport. It means some transport for hydrophilic molecules around the lipid vesicles and in the space in between, which can be modulated. In the end also, and this is probably, if you are working with the Pemapad membrane on daily basis, this is probably the most important finding. It's that you have to be careful when you work with Pemapad, because of if you use FASF in one experiment and use FESF in another experiment, and you don't add sodium chloride to FASF or use less sodium chloride in your FESF or other medias, and you maybe use an acceptor media which are a weak buffer just with some surfactant. In these cases, you can change the morphology of a membrane where it's not on purpose. So be observative of your osmolalities when you work with the membrane, and make sure that you are consistent how you use it with different osmolalities, so you don't have an artifact on your studies at some point. In the end, I would like to acknowledge everyone who have contributed to this project. I would especially like to highlight Hesham Barakat. He was a master student we had from University of Bologna, and he was in the laboratory with me to do most of the experiments which I have presented today. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Jonas, for this great presentation. Let me switch the layouts. And I've activated the download for the presentation. You can download it right now, and you will receive a link on Monday for the recording. And we already got a question from Dominic. Hi, and thanks for the nice presentation. I'm wondering, once you remove the pre-treatment media and add the 300 milliosmolar media for the experiment, wouldn't we expect that the vesicles re-equilibrate to the 300 milliosmolar condition quite fast?
Yes, we would expect they re-equilibrate, but I'm not sure if I misunderstood the question, but I understood it as they are changing again. I would to a new condition, but I would think that when you put the first media on the barrier, you get the barrier wet, and when you remove the media again, the barrier is still wet on top. We remove it, but maybe there is 3% left on top of it, and also some of the liquid inside the membrane is outside, is laying there. And I would expect that if we then put another 300 milliosmolar solution upon it, then this second 300 milliosmolar solution, they will stay the same size, so they would.
Oh, I think we
solution with a low osmolality on it first, and then put a 300 milliosmolar solution on it. Then I would expect that they re-equilibrate really fast, but this re-equilibration will be that the water go out of the lipid vesicles, and then they simply shrink because of they want to. I don't think they start all over and come to their initial formation again, if that's explaining it.
I hope this answer was quite properly. Yes. All right. Are there any other questions? If you have questions afterwards, you can contact us all the time, and we will be happy to connect you with Jonas, or we can help you. And just write us an email through our homepage, or you can write us an email through our email address. I will type in the address right now. Com. right.
And people are also welcome to contact me directly if they have any questions to anything.
Good. So if there are no other questions, thank you very much again, Jonas, for this great presentation and your work on this topic. Really looking forward to your new findings in the future. And yes, thank you for all the attendees. I hope this study helped you a bit for your work. And I'm really happy to connect with you afterwards. And have a great day. And see you soon. Thank you very much
for having me.
You're welcome. Bye bye, Jonas.